It's time for Respect the Process, a short chat about commercial filmmaking. Here's your host, director Jordan Brady.
Oh, Helen, we have a great show today. Listeners, if you're keeping track, and I don't know who really does, it's December 12th, 2024. My guest is President and Chief Creative Officer of Red Tettemer O'Connell Partners. I'm talking about Steve Red on the podcast. We recorded this several weeks ago. We had a great chat. We talked about the Super Bowl campaign the agency did for Deets Nuts, starring one of my favorite comedians and performers, Craig Robinson, and it's hilarious. We talk about picking the right director for the creative work, a Planet Fitness campaign and the strategy behind that, and of course Steve's path into advertising. I always enjoy the origin story of our guests, be it a filmmaker, someone on the crew, an agency person. I just find it fascinating, the twists and turns that life takes them before they land where they land. So you're going to enjoy the chat. The boot camp is Saturday, and it's sold out. So why am I talking about it? Because it's so much fun for me to do. And now that I've limited it to 10 people, and I apologize to the people that tried to sign up after the fact, but I've been digging into the work that the 10 people do. So I'm spending more time prepping for the boot camp like it's a shoot. But instead of learning about the agency or writing a treatment, I'm watching the filmmaker's work, and just finished up my last onboarding call with a filmmaker flying in from Minneapolis. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And next thing I'll be doing is I'll be pushing you to sign up for the filmmaker retreat, which is in September of 2025. Now, why would I even bring it up today? Because if you want to get that last minute tax write-off, just put a deposit down, save your spot, because it will fill up. It's sold out 3 years in a row. Not the first year people couldn't return because there was nothing to return from. But year 2 and year 3, we had repeat filmmakers come back to the retreat, and I expect it's going to happen again. So I'm super excited. Yes, there will be Magic Mind at the retreat. I like the Magic Mind. I was on the Inner Circle podcast with Shane and Lydia Hurlbut yesterday. We recorded it. They film it. My lovely wife, Jeanette Godoy, was with me talking about her journey, path from choreographer to stylist to director. It's pretty interesting. They asked me how I keep my energy up on set, and I pull a bottle of Magic Mind out of my sweatshirt pouch. Even my wife laughed. And it's so portable. It's an on-the-go mental performance elixir. Now, I drink it straight out the bottle when I'm on set, and it keeps my energy going without the jitters that you get with that afternoon cappuccino. When you're the director on set, they hand you cappuccinos all day long. I say, no, I've got a Magic Mind in my pocket. There will be Magic Mind at the retreat. The Magic Mind people are good about that. You know what? I have one favor to ask. If you like red meat, next Thursday, that would be the 19th of December, and you're in LA and you eat meat, please join me at MOINKFEST 2024. MOINKFEST 24 will be the best MOINKFEST ever. In fact, it's the first and only MOINKFEST. I mean, maybe the MOINK people will keep it going, but I've been shooting this documentary, and I'm almost done. And I went to family farms in Missouri, and I went to Arkansas, and I learned about regenerative farming, about pasture-fed sheep, cows, free-range chickens, no cages, the pigs run wild in the forest, and there's no confinement to any of these animals. They're ethically treated their entire lives. And admittedly, the purpose of their life is to provide food for us. But why shouldn't they have a good life and not be tortured like Big Ag does? So that was the whole point of my documentary. Then it comes down to this. Does it taste good? Like, if it doesn't taste good, what's the point? I mean, we all eat stuff for our health that doesn't taste good, but not for a whole meal. I think this meat from Moink is some of the best meat I've ever put in my mouth. And if you knew me during the 80s, you know I put a lot of meat in my mouth. So come on out to MOINKFEST. I'll put a link at jordanbrady.com. It'll show up in the show notes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. sign up, RSVP, you get a free smash burger, and then I'm going to interview you for like 90 seconds. If it tastes good, does it satisfy your soul that you're helping family farms who sometimes have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to keep the farm afloat? They're fighting big agriculture, which, smashes the price down on them. So come have a smash burger with me. And here's the big news. If you're a filmmaker listening to this podcast, and why wouldn't you be, I'm going to raffle off the entire suite of online courses that we have. That's right, Helen, a raffle. So I got these raffle tickets like I'm a carnival barker. I got them on Amazon, and they bring them right to your house. The food is free. I just want your opinion on camera so I can finish up this documentary with like a festival-like event. There you go. Okay, Helen, let's cut to the interview with Steve. Thanks, everybody. Tell me about Deets Nuts with my favorite improvisational comedian of all time.
Yeah, Craig.
Craig Robinson. Have you ever seen him live? You saw him on set because
I did see him live. He's just like a. Have you met him?
I've met him and I've seen his shows like at the Improv in Hollywood. And for the listener right now, I'm going to put links obviously to the website, but go to some of the outtakes of Craig Robinson on the couch, just riffing and having a blast. And I love that you put that on your site because to me, like sometimes it seems like there's 2 kinds of agency websites, right? Yeah. They're either too crazy or they're too serious about themselves and a lot of case studies.
Yeah.
And what I think you've done is you've shown us the work and then a little glimpse behind the curtain.
Nice.
The outtakes.
The Deets Nuts story is a great story, and I think it really kind of epitomizes our agency. So, one of our clients is Deets & Watson, which is meats and cheeses company. They're nationally distributed, but their headquarters is in Philly. So to our earlier conversation, they're very Philly. So we get them, and they gave us a brief to figure out a way to hack the Super Bowl. So they didn't want to buy a spot in the Super Bowl, but they wanted to create some disruptive way to get some noise out there about their brand during the Super Bowl.
And that right there sounds like something a lot of clients would ask. We don't spend the money on the Super Bowl. Can you get us notice?
Super Bowl money. Don't spend Super Bowl money, but get Super Bowl fame. So yeah. We did an activation the previous year that went really well. I won't go into it, but the other thing that we knew about our client, because I think we listen well and we really think about our clients' businesses, not just the advertising, was we knew they wanted to get into the snack category. So we put together the brief that they gave us to kind of make some noise during the Super Bowl. And the fact that they wanted to get into the snack category, and the fact that their name sounds surprisingly like a meme that's been out there for 1,000 years.
Right.
So we went to them and said, what if we launch your first great snack product during the Super Bowl, and we call it Deets Nuts? Deets Nuts. And they said they were kind of aware of the meme. We had to take them through it, and to their credit, their brand manager Lauren is super open-minded. They're one of those great clients. It just, you can't go into, some clients you go into a meeting and you're a little afraid to show them that something way out there. They're just bring it to us. So we said, what if we launch this new snack product called Deets Nuts? And Lauren immediately was like, oh, we can probably make those. And we presented it in November.
So wait, just so I'm understanding, as an agency, you're given this challenge, and rather than just coming up with creative ideas for their brands, you knew they wanted a snack category, so you suggest the product.
Yes, we suggested a business.
Is that typical?
I don't know if it's typical, but it's typical of us.
I see it as like stunts. You know, someone will have like there's one, a resume on a pizza box, or for a limited time, Liquid Death has one coffin. I think they're really great at it. But this is a product which takes a considerable investment on your client's part just to manufacture, distribute, and advertise the product.
Totally. So to that point, Lauren didn't blink, said, we can make that product. We can get the packaging done. We have a product called Land Jaegers, which are basically Slim Jims. So she knew that she could go back to the factory and say, just cut those Land Jaegers up. We'll make them into meat nuts. They could get the packaging done. So in the space of time between November and the Super Bowl, which is the beginning of February, they ginned up a whole manufacturing line of this new product. We got Craig Robinson on board, and the rest is history. We said we could retire after we made a product called Deets Nuts.
Yeah. It's weird because, again, just comedically, I could see someone at face value thinking it's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that as a diss, because I don't see it as low-hanging fruit. I'm seeing it as like, well, how do you serve that up and make it palatable as an ad? So it's actually sometimes the something that's like a wordplay can be tough.
Yep.
And after the initial joke, how does it sustain for the other 27 seconds?
Totally. And I'll give credit to Craig, I think, was the perfect delivery person. The other little nuance is our whole platform for Deets it's a family thing. They're a family-run business. They serve families, all that kind of stuff, and everything that goes along with it. The counterpart to Craig is his brother.
Mm-hmm.
So he's on the couch. So
gotcha.
There's like natural chemistry between the two that came through. And then Neil Brennan shot it or directed it. And
Neil Brennan of Chappelle Show fame.
Yeah. Yes. Which I think he's funny as hell. And to your point, he got that the joke is embedded in the name and the relationship to the meme that's out there. You don't have to try too hard. Just like let it play, So I think that's what made it so successful. And awesome. The thing that it did was we were a little, and the client was a little nervous about like doing something that it's basically a ball joke.
Yeah. For those that haven't figured that out at this point.
Right. And and they have a relatively conservative audience, although we're going for a younger demo like most brands these days. But I think the combination that, the brilliant way that Craig delivered it and the simplicity of the spot, we didn't get like one complaint. We didn't get one complaint.
Oh, that's great.
The other super funny thing is now whenever we present that as a case study in a new pitch or presentation, tons of times somebody in the presentation will be like, my kid loves that spot. They came home talking about Deets Nuts. They're like, oh, great. We're giving Deets Nuts to a whole new generation of...
Well, that's, children are the future. Now, there's a lot of filmmakers listening to the show. I bet you a young Michael Ryan Fagan is listening. How do you pick a director? Like, Neil is well known working with celebrity talent. Maybe Craig recommended him. I don't know. But how, like with this spot, how do you go about picking a director?
The thing that I personally always look for, and it's what I say, when people ask me about, evaluating a new talent for the agency or anything in my life. I look for passion first. I look for people that are excited and like that excitement comes through. Because this business, the people that kind of just like go through it as order takers or just to do what's necessary are make a lot of boring work.
Yeah.
And, we hold ourselves to a really high standard, and I think people need to be stoked to work on stuff. So that's certainly not the only criteria, but that's like one of the top at the top of the list for me.
Well, but even before you got on the call or the Zoom to choose a director, how do you, in your mind, go, who'd be good? The woman who did the Shave Your Nuts spot, right? Which is JJ Adler, by the way, because she was on the podcast and I'm a big fan of hers. But did you go, I need someone who can do understated, work with talent, celebrities, and not joke the joke because it's Deets Nuts? And then your team brings it, the traditional producer throws 25 reels after she's looked at 100.
Yeah.
Or you do Neil.
We didn't know Neil. We knew that it had to be somebody who, one, got the overall joke, like was savvy enough and culturally relevant or aware enough to know the joke, and then somebody who wouldn't crush it under a ton of production and a ton of like acting and like all that and
over direct
it. Yeah.
I carry one of these big, you've seen the Staples red buttons?
Yeah.
I have one that says director undo. And whenever I see myself or another director doing too much, I hit that undo button and just let it be simple. Because usually it's pretty vetted. Like, you want to bend it, not break it, as I'm known to say and others have said. But go ahead. Yeah, you don't want someone that's going to just overproduce and make a big to-do. And then the funny seems to just disappear like a balloon that's been let loose.
Yeah, I think that, and because we're talking about comedic spots. Certain people have certain senses of humor, and you got to kind of identify the right sense of humor for that particular comedy.
Oh, I think tone is the most necessary point of alignment that a director should have with an agency to hire her or him or they.
Yeah.
But because it ain't brain surgery, and you could produce any qualified filmmaker that's had a little bit of experience with craft. It's not about that. We can surround anyone with craft, but if that director doesn't get the tone, then it's constant friction.
Yeah.
And I bring up Neil because I know him for many, many years from back, like literally back in the Nickelodeon days, pre-even Comedy Central. And I love his work. So I just thought like, well, there's a guy that isn't going to get in the way of Craig Robinson, or if he's done some Kevin Hart stuff for Capital One or a lot of athletes. He's started in commercials with a lot of athletes. So I think you made a great pick.
Yeah.
Now, how did you pick Michael Fagan for I'm going to say it wrong, for the Gabagool.
Gabagool.
And he's right in your own backyard.
Yeah, for sure. We wanted somebody again kind of to get that Sopranos, South Philly way, and like understand what's funny about it, what goes too far into caricature, I mean, that sounds funny that we have a guy dressed up as a vampire piece of ham or something to think about it as a caricature. But I think, when you play stuff that's out there close to the line, you play it more straight, that it ends up being funnier. So I think we always think about our comedy in the most normal way possible.
Yeah, you don't just the joke.
Yeah, we just did a series of spots for Sheets, and the whole premise of the spots is drawing out what we call your inner Sheets freaks. So they call their big fans freaks, Sheets freaks.
Sheets freaks.
And we say in our fiction is there's your inner urge, the thing that makes you put French fries on top of your cheeseburger is your inner Sheets freak. And they're manifested in these little red balls with legs, and they look sort of like the humans that they live inside. So that's a pretty far-fetched and fun world to create. But and this is, to the director's credit, again, like he referenced Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, yeah. Love that movie.
So he came in and he said, I want to shoot these like Shaun of the Dead. And the beautiful thing about Shaun of the Dead is there are people walking around eating people's guts and brains, and there's zombies in the world, but everybody, it's just like a normal world. And
it's accepted.
Yeah, it's accepted. And that makes the zombies even more preposterous. It makes the dialogue even funnier. So we all, agreed that this world that has these little red balls, we should just treat them like that's the way the world is, and that makes it funnier and more fun to watch, I think.
That's a great take. That's a great way to put it. I'm a huge proponent of that. And I've steered us down the comedy path because I have a personal interest, and your stuff is funny, so it made sense. I'm scrolling the site here. Give me something serious. Planet Fitness.
Yeah, that's so serious.
I will say jewelry.
Yeah, Planet Fitness is an interesting one because one, I always say the most fun clients to work with are the ones that know who they are and really believe in themselves. And we're lucky enough to have quite a few clients like that. But Planet Fitness, their whole premise is they're a gym for the 80% of us that don't want to go to the gym. So like people that work out like crazy, people who are in shape, people who are, love lifting things and screaming really loud. That's not for them. That's not for their gyms. They're for the people that don't want to go to the gym, that would rather sit on the couch, when they're, and when they go to the gym, the reason they don't go to the gym is they're intimidated by that other 20%. They like people grunt, and they don't like it when people wear skimpy, costumes and all that stuff. That keeps them out of the gym. So Planet Fitness's whole belief system is built around, we're going to protect that 80%. We're going to create an environment that's awesome for you. So we created the spots that we created for Planet Fitness were all about the extremes that other gyms go to. Like, so the crazy people, it highlighted those people. And we shot really funny spots about those kinds of environments. But then on the other side of it, there's two business sides, back to kind of wrapping ourselves around their business problem. There's acquisition, so they need to get new members in, but there's also retention. So once you get members, you want to keep them. So we, in working with them, over a couple of years, we started to hear all these stories about people in the gyms that had done amazing things. Like one girl had scoliosis, and she was able to, get to a point where she was an athlete and she could run, and she was completely an active person from a person that was pretty much bedridden. Stories like that over and over happen because Planet Fitness is a place where you're not intimidated. So we created a site for them proactively. So we went to them one day and we're like, we should make a place to tell these stories. So we created a site that was called Planet of Triumphs. We populated it with all these, stories, and it became like the core of the organization's understanding of what they were and why they were. So the CEO at the time told us that he got up every morning and looked at Planet of Triumphs and would get like stoked to go into work that day because
you told them a little bit about themselves they didn't know.
Yeah.
That must feel great.
Yeah, it was great. And we played both sides of the coin, like we used that extreme comedic value to disrupt people and to pull them in. And then once they were in, we used those, heartwarming stories to kind of show them why it was a great place to be.
Wow. I love talking to you because it always widens my tunnel vision about what an agency does. Because I come at it from a certain point of view, and advertising being under a marketing umbrella, basically, and you're talking about strategy and positioning and things that just happen outside of the world of making a 30-second film for an agency. So it's great. It's refreshing to hear. It puts everything in perspective, and I think it teaches listeners right now to have respect for like this holistic approach
That's cool.
that our agencies have towards their clients.
Thank you.
You've been in the game. How did you start? I don't quite know your origin story, Steve Red.
I don't know. Is that interesting? I took a roundabout way into advertising. Like I'm like a lot of kids, in their 20s. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I went to Ohio Wesleyan, and I for 2 years, and I was going to be a writer. So I was going to be a journalist. And
are you from Ohio?
No. I lived in Ohio, and my dad was in the Air Force. Like I said.
Oh, that's right. You bounced through.
We were stationed in Ohio for a while, but it was one of the, it was a half decent college that I was able to get into. So, and I went there for 2 years. I drank a lot of beer and had the wherewithal to at least say at the end of my sophomore year, this is a waste of my parents' money. So I dropped out, and the other thing that I was interested in was art. So I came back home, and I went to work as an orderly in a hospital, and I decided to put myself into art school. So I paid my way, got into Philadelphia College of Art, which became the University of Arts. And I was taking painting. So I wanted to be a fine artist, which is not a big money-making thing unless you're incredibly lucky. And so I thought maybe I'll take a more commercial lane, and I got into illustration. And halfway through my first illustration course, the professor, this is my profound moment of my, one of the profound moments of my life. He said, "You're pretty good at this. You could probably make a living, but your ideas are really good. You should try advertising." And that was the first time I'd ever even known there was a thing called advertising.
Wow.
And so I switched tracks. I got into the advertising, and the first moment I stepped into an advertising course, I was like, this is what I want to do. And the rest is history. So that's
a great story. I mean, I have to ask right away, listeners, there is a picture of a fluffy cat behind Steve. Did you paint that cat?
I did not paint this cat. This cat is one of the best pieces of trash-picked art ever in the history of art.
You found it in a dumpster or in an alley?
My sister-in-law found it on the side of the street in a trash heap and took a picture of it and sent it to my wife and I, and we said, that has to go in the agency. Pick that up immediately. So she got it. Yeah.
Two things. One, I've actually done a commercial with a white cat on a chaise lounge like that.
Oh, wow. Really?
I've done that shot. And number two, will you please take a selfie with that in the background so I can post it with this podcast blog?
Totally.
So like you, I dropped out after the sophomore year of college, but I didn't really attend the sophomore year. It was just sort of living on campus and getting into stuff. So I respect that. And then it sounds like this art professor who was very influential, he gave you that aha moment. It was kind of a double aha. hey kid, you're good, but your ideas are great. Take an advertising class. And you listened.
Yeah.
Right? Just sobering up with the paintbrush and the smock on. You said, okay, I like this guy. I'm going to listen to him. And then stepping into that class, what a great feeling. Like, I wish everyone could have that moment.
I totally agree.
Where they go, this is my purpose.
Yeah, because it's it's hard when you're that age to figure it out and to find something you really like are just in,
So then you get out of advertising school, you get a job. Where was your first?
Okay, so that's the other thing that this is when I started to like manifest things to happen.
Oh, I like this.
So I got into the advertising track, and then my last year I looked in the syllabus and I saw there was a guy who owned his own small agency in Jersey. And I said, I'm going to take this guy's course, and by the end of it, I'm going to have a job at that agency. And that's what I did.
The Jersey guy taught at the Philly Arts College?
Yeah. So those of you who don't know, Philadelphia is right across the bridge from Jersey.
Sure.
You just go right across the bridge and you're in South Jersey. So he had a little agency in South Jersey.
What was that called?
It's called...
Still around.
No, it's not around anymore. It was called Schafel and Associates.
Schafel and Associates?
Yeah.
Tom Schafel?
No, his name was Larry.
Larry, that's even better. Larry Schafel. Larry Schafel, Sierra, have I got an idea for you?
And he was totally a Willie Loman type.
Oh, I love it.
Yes.
Okay, so you made that happen.
Yeah, so I used the whole, semester as basically a one long portfolio review, and I just crushed everything that I could. And the last day he said, you should come over and interview, and I got the job. So that was my first entree into advertising.
In the movie of the week of your life, he goes, kid, I want you to come work for me. And you turned around and went, yes, and pulled your pits down slowly.
That is exactly right.
Is this in the late 80s, early 90s?
That was early 80s. I'm that old.
Okay, you and I might be the similar vintage.
And we started Red Tettemer in 1996.
This has all been a ploy to lead to this question. Did you always know you wanted your own agency, or was it after working at others that you said, you know what, I gotta have my own. I can't work for the man. Or
the latter.
Whoever.
The latter.
Yeah.
So I made my way from Schafel back across the river. At the time, Philly had an agency called Earl Palmer Brown, which had a brief shining moment. They had 14 offices in the country, some really good clients, a really strong creative department. So I got a job there, and I was lucky enough to start working with a writer named Red Tettemer, and we just got on well. And the thing about Earl Palmer Brown was, like I said, they were good, but they were run by a Wharton business grad, and he didn't really give a shit that he was running an advertising agency. He could have been running a widget company. So he didn't really, the agency didn't really have any belief in anything. So Ed and I started freelancing on the side, and after doing that for a while, we looked at what we were doing as a side business, and we said we could make a living at this, and we decided to break off. And we said,
with one client in tow, or
no clients.
The typical story is you left in the middle of the night with the one client that you'd worked with, and they were both frustrated with Larry Schafel too.
Yeah, exactly. No clients.
That's ballsy.
We had some relationships that we thought would continue if we, went off on our own, but no guarantees. And the one thing that we said, we met down at his rental beach house, and we were like, we don't really care if we grow to be bigger than us two. That doesn't matter to us. We just want to do good work, and we want our agency to have something that it believes in. Ogilvy had his magic lanterns that guided the way for the agency. So we decided to take that notion and we wrote down what we called our Trailblazers. And there were 10 Trailblazers in our mission. And we said, this is what we're going to stand for. And if people come to us and they jive with this, then they'll be good for us. And if they don't, they won't work with us. Same with clients. Like, we'll evaluate clients that way. And we've, all these years later, Ed retired 10 years in. He gave me his 10-year notice when we started the business. And
that was plenty of time.
Yeah. And all these years later, like, I think that's why we've been successful, because I say it inspires everybody to look in the same direction. Like, we're all pointed in the same direction. We all want to be great. Our mission is be unforgettable. So every time out, we take big swings. We, everything from writing emails to making campaigns, we try and make great. So, yeah.
I can imagine what it's like to win a client, akin to, getting awarded a directing assignment.
Mm-hmm.
I can, but I'll ask the question, what is it like to tell a client we're just not a good fit? I imagine there's a lot of respect, but there's also probably some like, you're turning me down?
Yeah.
How does that conversation go?
Luckily we've only had to do that a few times in our history where it just absolutely didn't work. And another one of our little maxims, we say our policy is no shitheads.
Mm-hmm.
And we apply that to people that work here, but we also apply it to clients. And the only clients that we've had to say goodbye to proactively, like, we can't work together, were not, it wasn't necessarily that we disagreed on work. They were actual shitheads. Like, they were just jerks to work with. And we don't allow people to treat our people that way. So that's the reason that we resign those pieces of business. The other thing that we do, we have three criteria that we kind of evaluate potential clients by. One is money, because you'll always look at money.
Yeah.
Two is there something creatively juicy there? Like, so could we do something that will, inspire our folks and possibly make us famous? And the third is, will it lead to a category or, a brand that we haven't worked with or in yet? Using those three kinds of criteria to measure keeps us in a good place. We don't just like go after anything. So yeah, I can't remember what your original question was, but
it doesn't matter. It's a flowing conversation, Steve. Yeah, my daddy always told me it's never about the money. It's about how much, which I always liked. And I was like 7 at the time. So as a grown man, I'm like, why was he always saying that? And yeah, I like your number 3. Could it get you yet another client? Like, not in a, like, we're using this client, you're giving everyone 120% of your love. But like with Deets Nuts, I know they're a client, but just for an example, humor me, you could now go to a new client and go, we were instrumental in launching them into snacks. In fact, we happened to come up with Deets Nuts.
Yeah.
Right? And they'll go, that's what we need. We need that.
Yeah.
And they just cut it. They just cut the long Slim Jims. That's all that's genius.
Totally. And the other thing that we've always said is, when you do a certain kind of work, clients tend to, the kinds of clients that want that kind of work come to you.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just by continuing to be bold, continuing to kind of like press for what we think is great, interesting storytelling, clients that want to do that same thing tend to ask us into pitches and, come to us for work. So it sort of builds on itself.
Yeah, my son Jake listens and edits these podcasts, and he always gives me shit when I say the same. He's like, "You say that every other week, Dad." I'm cutting it out, but here it's actually relevant. I'm a big proponent of putting yourself in a box so that you can easily be sold. And from the context of being a director and you're selling yourself, you want to be known as the comedy guy that doesn't overdo it and works with celebrities. Like, that's a very narrow box. I don't know that like Neil Brennan is going to do the epic drama around the world pharma spot. Now, he certainly could, but
Sure.
and we all love variety, but there's something about honing in. So when you say as an agency, you could be known for that. Like, certainly all the work on the site is varied in tone, and it should be for you. But knowing that there are boxes that you can sort of push forward, that's interesting to hear.
Yeah,
that you look at a future client as to, okay, what does this open up for us?
Yeah.
That was maybe a stretch on the analogy between the box, the director box, and the agency boxes.
No, I think that's true. The thing
Did my son cut it out, or is he going to keep it in? Jake,
I think he should keep it in this time.
Steve says keep it in, Jake.
The other thing that we say is, when people ask us like what kinds of clients we like to work for, what kind of brands we would like to work for, my answer is always, I want people that are all in, because the most fun in this business is when everybody is all in. That's when it's So it doesn't really matter to me the brand or the category. I want people that are just want to make great.
So yeah, I would say my whole life is category and brand agnostic.
Yeah.
It comes down to tone and taste and point of view. Like, am I a good fit for what this assignment is?
Yeah.
That's the kind of work I want to do, the work that I like to do, and I want to get more of the same. Yeah. I'm shunning variety when it comes to tone. I love variety when it comes to brands. Like, it's interesting. I had a young filmmaker new to the advertising space ask about exclusivity. Like, if you do a McDonald's commercial, can you do a Wendy's commercial? And I was like, hell yeah. As a matter of fact, now you've got this burger on your reel with people being funny around it. That's probably good for the McDonald's people that they saw the Wendy's spot. Like, it's not like an actor where you can't be the spokesperson for two burger chains.
Right. Or an agency. We can't really.
But the agency can't do that. That's not cool. Just to let someone go. The RFP, request for proposal, it goes out, and if you're not in the agency world, can you explain to us, like, how do you find out about who's looking for a new client? Like, a word on the street? Do you have like sales teams? Like, how do you find out about the opportunity to begin with?
Yeah. Well,
you can pass on any question, by the way, Steve.
We've never been a sales-minded organization. That's just not us. And we don't really have a new business department to speak of. Our thing has always been, and this is from very, very, very early on, we were in a pitch, and this is years and years and years ago, for Olympus cameras. And it was like the biggest pitch that we had the chance to be in at the time. Like the first national, international brand. And the pitch consultant came back. They were kind of friendly with us. They saw us as an up and coming kind of, discovery agency. So they put us in. And they came back to us and they were like, you guys on every level impress the client. Like, they loved you. They loved your work. They loved your attitude. The only thing you didn't have was a name. Like, they didn't know who you were. And that was too big a leap for them to make as a brand team. So they said, my suggestion to you is to start to build PR around your agency and your work. And we went out that week and we hired a PR firm, which we still work with them. Nicole is that firm. And we started doing press, and we made it our objective to like get a hit a month. And that's all the new business, generation we've ever done. Just press. And it's worked remarkably well. And then the other thing that we do is we trade on our reputation. Like, we continually get more work because we do good work. And like I said before, people come to us for that kind of work.
It's a vicious cycle. Do great work, get opportunities to make better work.
Yeah, and then great work.
Then come up with more great work. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Wow. And what if someone's listening right now? Like, a lot of people are filmmakers and creatives that want to work with you. And I rarely say this after 500 and some episodes, but I would love to work with you on the Nesquik ads. One, because this has been a great conversation, but two, I think tonally I do something like that. But most importantly, my children and my grandchildren would think it was cool as fuck to see a picture of me with a guy in the Nesquik bunny suit. It has been a staple in our lives for decades.
You think that's a guy in there?
Or, hey, I intermittently say the genders. I just...
No. I mean, it's quite possibly just a 10-foot tall bunny.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yes, it's real.
But a picture with that bunny, nonetheless. Yeah, for sure.
I actually did a job for a Nestle product, and we shot at their headquarters in Glendale, California.
Yeah.
And we end up on the Nesquik floor, and they had a 4-foot bottle of the iconic yellow and blue Nesquik thing. And they, the corporate culture, which I'm sure you know, is like, if you're on the Nesquik team, your cubicle is lined with every flavor. Like, it's a temple to the brand. And I asked, hey, is it cool if I take some pictures? Because we're shooting on that floor and in that building. They're like, yeah. And my kids were young at the time. They still think that was one of the coolest things. Like, you went to the Nesquik headquarters. Someone listening to the podcast that's a client. There's some people that have jumped ship, from agency going to the client side, and they're listening. What do? They hear this interview. They go, I want to call Steve. How do I get on the phone with Steve? Is that a hope? Is it because I'm flattered you're on this podcast? It's a very niche. But what was your hope?
I mean, it goes back to what I said before. I love this business. I mean, we get to do this for a job. It's fun.
It's a blast.
Yeah. So I really love this business. I love working for our clients. I really, believe we're doing some good together. And, so I just look, like I said it before, I look for passion. I look for people like ourselves out there in the world, other creative people, other, potential client people that have problems that they want to solve. If they're in it to win it, we're like, yeah, give us a...
I put you on the spot there. I'm sorry. What is there anything I haven't asked you that you were hoping I would ask or thought I would ask?
No, this has been pretty good.
Some people come with a list of topics. Nicole was doing great work trying to get me to give you questions, and I was like, it's just a casual conversation.
No, this has been really fun. And I was really happy to get to know you.
Well, thank you. Likewise. Tell me, what when the people are listening right now on iTunes and the big one, Spotify and whatnot, and they click on a link to the website, what spot I can manipulate it so it goes to one spot? What would that spot be?
I mean, Jesus, we already talked about the Deets Nuts.
That's the logical one, but I want to give you the reins here. And I'm encouraging the listeners while Steve scratches.
Okay. Just because we went heavy on comedy, and I'll go to the opposite side. I'll pick two spots. Okay. One for Whitehaven Wines, which I think is just beautifully. It's basically like a manifesto to white wine, but beautifully done.
Beautiful black and white.
Yeah. So it shows maybe another side of the agency. And then the other one is a brand called Laughing Man Coffee, which is owned by Hugh Jackman, who happens to be the most charming people on the planet, for real, even when you meet him. And that was like an incredible experience. I think the work that came out of it was really awesome. We shot in Colombia, and in the coffee fields of Colombia. And it's the coffee gives back to coffee farmers a percentage of every purchase to help them build schools. And
that's great. Fair trade coffee, we call that.
Yeah, exactly. So those two spots I thought are near and dear to my heart.
Oh, good. It's awesome. I will put the links at jordanbrady.com. If you're listening elsewhere, go ahead and click. It'll take you right to the site. It'll take you to see this work. That's great. Well, the show is called Respect the Process. Okay, I don't know if you know. That's the name of it. And this is how we conclude. Steve, what does that mean to you when you hear the phrase respect the process?
For me, I think that I'll link it back to belief. And I think that having convictions and having belief in what you're doing, I always say believe and commit is one of the most important things in this business, is my respect the process. Like you gotta believe in what you're doing to make good work in this business and effective work. So that would be my answer.
That's a great answer. There's no wrong answer, but that's a great one. And I think you can always tell when someone does something for the money. Another one my daddy always said was, chase money always loses.
Chase
money always loses. When you go after it and you think, I'm going to do this, it's just, it never pans out. Or if you take a job, or in your case, a client that, like you said, they're shitheads, or I forget the term, but you just feel icky.
Yeah, exactly.
So you got to be true. And don't we all have that little Jiminy Cricket, that little voice inside us that says, okay, something's wrong here? Convert.
Maybe it's the inner sheets freak.
It's the inner sheets freak. Way to bring it back. I was going to bring it back to you in taking that class and that professor telling you to take an art class. Like I think it's important we listen to what, call it intuition, call it the universe, call it God, call it whatever. But there are these moments when you just feel like, okay, this is something I am to do. And you change the course of your life. Or it could be even the idea or the pitch, or, you know what? They want this. We're going to build a site of these stories. They don't know they want it, but we know deep that they need it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Listen to your instincts.
Well, thank you for being on the show, and keep us posted. And anytime you want to come back and talk about a new project, a successful campaign, anything, just reach out. We'll talk to you later. Thanks again.
All right. This is one of the most fun of these kinds of things that I've done. So thanks.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, man. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Wow. Steve has taught us a lot, not just about him and advertising, but about ourselves. Join me at MOINKFEST next Thursday, the 19th. Click on the link to RSVP so I know you're coming and I can plan a burger for you. We'll talk soon.
Commercial Directing Film School's mission is to help filmmakers direct commercials professionally. With online courses and in-person boot camps, we demystify the process to get you to the next level, all taught by your accessible mentor, filmmaker Jordan Brady.
True Gentleman Industries. We make commercials.